You're listening to Eating for Eden, episode 42. When it comes to doing something about climate change, your food choices matter. Thanks for tuning in to Eating for Eden, a podcast that takes a food-first approach to climate action. I'm your host, Jessica J. Schroeder, and I am passionate about food that tastes good and does good. I'll guide you with practical tips and help you thoroughly enjoy your food along the way. Before I get started today, I just wanted to let you know that I am sitting in my kitchen and I've got the Instant Pot going in the background, so you may occasionally hear a beep or two, or three. Anyway, I'm making my Santa Maria pozole, pozole verde, which I have on edenandme.com. So if you're curious to understand what I'm cooking, head on over to edenandme.com and check out my Santa Maria pozole. Anyway, diving into today's episode, I've been considering developing an episode or even an ebook for eating plant-based in small spaces. Thinking of literally small kitchens, thus not much counter space for involved prep, as well as the proverbially, quote, small, by which I mean those not well stocked in terms of either or both ingredients or appliances, gear, and available cooking methods. As I record this episode, I just got back from a 1-month trip in New Zealand. My husband and I hopped around the South Island, staying in 7 different Airbnbs. When planning out our itinerary and reserving our accommodations, I tried to find as many as I could with full or near to full kitchens. But money is a finite resource, so we ended up in a few places with only a mini fridge, microwave, hot water kettle, and toaster. And even with those that were, quote, full kitchens, those were quite limited in their stock of cooking gear, pantry items, if any, and the like. Thus, I was forced, but in a good way, forced to cook creatively within these tight constraints. And honestly, I was excited to do so. Also, taking budget into consideration, it was my goal to cook delicious, nutritious, plant-based meals without breaking the bank. In other words, by shopping wisely, rather than by purchasing a whole slew of ingredients that I might not use up during our trip, such as bottles of nice olive oil. Nor would I have wanted to lug around an entire pantry's worth of ingredients from place to place, let alone buy it all for just a month. And I am hearing my Instant Pot pressurize, so apologize if you get distracted by that. So I hope this episode ends up being interesting and turns out to be more than just a reflection on our trip, although those bits may interest you as well. As we first headed out, I was super excited to see what kinds of foods I would cook and prepare under the tight constraints of travel in another country, not to mention the fact we couldn't bring any food with us from the US, so we walked in empty-handed as far as ingredients are concerned. In addition to sharing what I ended up cooking in small spaces, I'll also share here a few of our favorite flavor combinations that inspired us from our times of eating out. And I'll close with a reflection on the value of a well-stocked kitchen, the appropriate counterpoint to learning how to cook in either literally or proverbially small spaces. What I did to get us started was to come up with a list of staples I knew we'd use regularly, as well as a couple of meal ideas to get us started, both with grocery shopping and with food prep. Initial pantry staples I knew I'd want to get, and which served us well over the course of our trip, included rolled oats, soy milk, nut butters, and fruit for breakfast and snacks, tamari or soy sauce, and rice vinegar as affordable and versatile sources of umami and acid for flavoring any array of dishes, canned beans to have on hand, which can become or work into almost anything, hummus, crackers, and veg for dipping, fresh local fruit for snacking, and some locally made chocolate bars for a simple yet luxurious dessert. And let me tell you, fresh local sweet cherries or strawberries alongside a square of rich dark chocolate, yum. It really is the simple things in life. So breakfast was typically overnight oats with some kind of mixture of frozen berries I had microwaved into a compote, plus nut butter, or things on toast, such as peanut butter and banana, as these could be made anywhere. All I needed was a fridge and a microwave for the one and a toaster for the other. We also made oatmeal once. I made a tofu scramble, which I flavored with Penang curry paste, and we had avocado toast, which I sometimes topped with either capers or edamame, or both, as well as the avocado. Lunches were a mix of either leftovers from dinner and then the go-to hummus, crackers, cucumbers or peppers, and fresh fruit, such as local mandarins or sweet cherries. Dinners depended on where we were staying, but everything was kept simple. So we had simple cooked dinners in full but small kitchens. Those were things like Asian plates and bowls. One thing I made was a massaged red cabbage, steamed broccoli, brown rice, and edamame. Kind of like a salad sort of thing, topped with some fresh ginger and a simple peanut sauce and local New Zealand mandarins sliced up. I also bought a korma paste and a Penang curry paste, which I used for several meals, and mixed those with soy milk and served each with brown rice. I made a cauliflower and chickpea korma with a beautiful, massive head of cauliflower that I purchased at a farmer's market. Penang curry I made with tofu and red kumara, which is a word for sweet potato. Only I came to realize that red described the color of the skin, not the flesh, so it was a white sweet potato with red skin. I also made another korma with kohlrabi, which I also bought at a farmer's market, and it was my first time ever cooking with kohlrabi. Super fun. So it was both a success and a learning experience, some things I could have done differently, such as make sure I cut more of that tough skin off before cooking it. But anyway, I digress. Another thing made in those full kitchens was some pastas. So I made an Italian pasta with canned beans such as cannellini or butter beans, jarred Italian flavor bombs like sun-dried tomatoes, capers, olives, and peppadew peppers, and probably a bit of garlic on those. I also made a pasta with fresh fava beans, another farmer's market find, which we shelled and blanched ourselves, and that was also the first time I've ever worked with that ingredient. So very fun. Highly recommend kohlrabi and fava beans. Just do some research on how to use them first. Let's see, this pasta that I made with the fava beans also featured lots of fresh parsley, lemon, walnuts. It was bright and light and just lovely for summer because it was summer in New Zealand. This is where I missed my really good extra virgin olive oil, though. So I have to admit that. When I didn't have a full kitchen, and thus only a microwave and a toaster for available cooking methods, thankfully, some of the time I had some leftovers of a meal that I had just made at a different place, such as leftover cauliflower chickpea korma and rice that we could just stick in the microwave. But another Asian meal that I made without having a cooking hob was a simple take on pad thai. I purchased some Asian noodles that only needed to soak in hot water for a couple of minutes and then be strained. Then I made a thin peanut sauce with peanut butter, tamari, and rice vinegar, and I put that on the noodles, and then topped that with shelled edamame, cilantro, and alfalfa sprouts, as well as some nuts. Without a great way to cook veg, I figured I could just pack a bunch of nutritional value and flavor punch by loading up on fresh cilantro and sprouts. That was a really great idea. It was tasty. And then things on toast also featured at dinner time when I had no hob. So I would toast up slices of bread, usually sourdough bread that I'd found at a bakery, prep each of us a plate of mixed salad greens. I would roughly mash up some cannellini beans or butter beans with olive tapenade to kind of flavor that, and black pepper, and then eat all of this together with fresh tomatoes, plus salt, pepper, and balsamic vinegar, of course, for those tomatoes. So, reflecting on what I learned when making do without my usual kitchen setup, here are a few practical tips for the small kitchen, whether literal or proverbial. Keep your counters clear. Small kitchens typically have precious little counter space, and what space you have, you'll want to make the most of for meal prep. Keep it clear so it's ready for you. Do your dishes right away. While it's fine to let a pot soak, when there aren't a lot of dishes or utensils, wash up right away so that things are clean and ready for the next meal. Another tip is choose staple ingredients that earn their keep. If you have limited pantry or fridge space, don't buy tons of stuff you won't use regularly. Buy the ingredients you'll use several times a week or at least weekly. For us, this was things like nut butters, rolled oats, rice vinegar, tamari, frozen edamame, and berries, etc. Also, keep meal prep simple. While I'm all for the lengthy, complex meal, it's not very much fun when you don't have the space or gear to make it well. Alternatively, opt for simple meals that don't require tons of steps or lots of space to assemble. One pot and one pan meals are terrific for a small kitchen, especially those that don't require a large variety of items that you don't typically keep on hand. Related to that tip is the tip of plan your meals based on what ingredients you tend to keep around. This is not to say that you can never try something new. That would be sad and boring to stick to the same old. But if you cook or need to cook for a time in a small space, it's better for your sanity and the sanity of others to stick to planning meals with the bulk of the ingredients list coming from things you already have or typically have around and thus will use often. Finally, have fun. Don't let cooking in a small kitchen take the joy out of working with food. It doesn't have to. While it might have been a bit annoying for me to have to kneel at a low counter and cobble together a peanut sauce with a fork in a stemless wine glass for my noodles, soaking in 2 cereal bowls of hot water, taking up nearly all the counter space I had to work with. Yes, true story. It was still fun for me to get together that faux pad thai and enjoy the fruits of my creativity and labor. With that, I want to switch gears then and share a few fun flavor combinations and recipe inspirations I compiled over the course of our weeks in New Zealand. At a restaurant called Moedi in Dunedin, we had a 5-course meal. While I won't describe everything, I will point out a few highlights. One was a dish with heirloom tomatoes and this lovely nut cream at the bottom. I'm guessing it was probably soaked almonds just pureed really smoothly. That also had pickled rhubarb and wispy fennel tops, and then these toasted sesame seeds and flaked almonds, bringing this crunchy, toasty, savory punch in there. It was really delightful. There was also a dish topped with shaved macadamia nut. Very fascinating. It looked like it was just dusted with Parmesan, but it was macadamia, and it tasted kind of smoky and of course nutty. Very, very fun. I'll probably be microplaning nuts over a variety of dishes from here on, and just to try all the different things. There was also a fascinating jackfruit dish. It was kind of like a deconstructed like a fast food meat dish, which sounds really funny to say, but there was like a layered potato kind of thing that was like seared on the different sides. It may have even been deep fried, but it was just very crispy on the outside, and these pieces of jackfruit that were kind of smoky. I think it was a confit, so it was cooked, meant it was cooked in fat, but then finished on the barbecue, and then served with this beetroot ketchup. Very interesting, very fascinating, really, really fun. And actually, fascinatingly enough, I was also served a curried jackfruit on the plane home, and I was amazed by how the fibers pulled apart and mimicked meat. So jackfruit is an ingredient I am definitely excited to experiment with in the future. At a different restaurant, a Mediterranean joint called Roca, we got a variety of small plates to share. One of them was fire-grilled greens with dukkha. Dukkha is a spice mix I actually have a recipe for on eaitandme.com. It has nuts and seeds in there as well. I thought this might be dark leafy greens, but it ended up being a combination of green beans, zucchini, and broccolini. This was a fun combo, and the dukkha was a delicious touch on there. We also got a date glazed eggplant with tahini labna. I'd love to try this with a version with soy milk at home if I can figure that out. And this was topped with a crispy topping made with peanuts, onion, garlic, and perhaps even orange zest. I was guessing. It was difficult to tell, but it was so delicious. Fresh herbs were a lovely addition here as well. And side note, I got fresh herbs at a farmer's market, so I had a lot to use over just a week's worth of time while we were finishing up our trip, so I found myself adding fresh herbs to avocado toast. So that's a great idea to keep in mind for your breakfast. We also had some tasty treats at coffee shops and cafes, including something called a pistachio slice, which was like a thick granola bar with an oat base, then a layer of mostly pistachio in the middle, and then a rich dark chocolate layer over the top. Very tasty. We also shared a piece of carrot cake that was delightfully mostly cake with just a small bit of frosting on the top, which was then topped with granola. A very unique and fun touch. And since I had to leave my beloved gavroche, my sourdough starter, at home, I was, of course, on the... Oh, there's the Instant Pot. I'll wait for it. Yeah, I forgot. There's a lot of beeps. Thanks for bearing with me. So since I had to leave my sourdough starter at home, I was inspired by a couple of other bakers when I was on the lookout for good sourdough bread. So I might be coating a sandwich loaf in seeds before placing it in a pan to bake from now on. We'll see about that. I also got flavor inspiration from a harissa and pumpkin seed sourdough, and this was great as avocado toast. Whenever I see flavored breads, I'm sometimes skeptical about whether I'll actually taste what is said to be in it, and this one was very flavorful. And picking something powerful like harissa, in addition to using enough of it, is a good way to make sure that the flavor comes through. So those are some fun flavor inspirations if you'd like to take those into your own kitchen as well. And finally, I will close with a brief reflection on the value of a well-stocked kitchen, both in terms of ingredients to work with and gear with which to cook and prep food, as well as to serve it, store it, and so forth. It's true that I enjoyed the challenge of cooking simply in small spaces and limited items. It's also true that it has made me that much more grateful for the well-stocked pantry and kitchen that I have at home. So if you have the ability and desire to give some attention to stocking your pantry with a variety of cooking ingredients and your kitchen with cooking gear and utensils to serve you well, here are just a few reasons why I have come to love doing so. And this is not exhaustive. This is just a list off the top of my head. 1, it gives me the ability to act on creative impulses without the burden of needing to go to the store, especially last minute. 2, it gives me the ability to make a wide variety of dishes without needing to purchase new ingredients on the regular. For example, once you have a variety of vinegars, say balsamic, apple cider vinegar, and rice vinegar, especially when a simpler dish makes it so that you really notice when a different vinegar is present, a particular one, and which one you should be eating. Like putting apple cider vinegar on tomatoes wouldn't be as nice as having balsamic if you're eating it, with basil and whatnot in a situation where you'd really want that balsamic. 3, it gives me the ability to cook and prepare food in a wide variety of methods and ways. For example, I can bake, roast, braise, and broil in the oven. I can blend, process, and puree things with a Vitamix and a food processor. I can saute, boil, steam, simmer, shallow fry, and a number of other things on the stove, and with a variety of different pots and pans. I can prepare food more easily with a set of sharp knives and adequately sized cutting boards. You get the picture. If cooking in Airbnb kitchens and kitchenettes reminded me of anything I already knew, it highlighted the importance of appropriate quality and diversity in kitchen items where it matters. And there are a number of places where a bit more quality can go a long way. Well, I think that's enough reflecting for now. I hope something that I shared here was interesting and relevant for your own life, or that maybe you got an idea to try at home or to share it with someone else. If you have questions or want to suggest a topic for a future episode, I'd love to hear from you. Send an email to edenandme@substack.com. Also, if you've been enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving a review. I'd love to grow the reach of this podcast in 2025, and I need your help to do so. Thank you in advance. If you want recipes, head over to edenandme.com, where you can find a variety of delicious recipes to bring what you're learning into the kitchen, in addition to the 2 that I mentioned while we were talking. Finally, become an email subscriber on Substack to have a new podcast episode delivered right to your inbox each week. If you appreciate the work I'm doing and want to support the show, you'll also have the option of becoming a paid subscriber. That's all for now, friends. Until next time, be well. Thanks for listening to Eating for Eden. If you found this episode informative or inspiring, please consider sharing it with a friend. Climate change is an issue we all need to tackle together, so let's invite others to journey along with us as we continue the conversation and start taking action. Until next week, friends, take care.